Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of Decoding Irish town names and place names. If you haven't seen part 1, we did letters A to E of the parts of place names in Irish, and I'll leave a link below if you want to watch that. But for now, let's continue on with the last part of letter E, and that is Esker, which means esker and changes to esk or esh in the anglicised version. For example, in the town of Eskra. Then we have fionn, which means clear, white or fair, changing to fin in English. For example, finglas, which comes from fionn glas, meaning clear streamlet. Freoch means heather and changes to fra or frack in the anglicised version. For example, letter frack comes from the Irish litter frack, which means the speckled hill. I suppose speckled with heather, seeing as freoch is heather. Garv means rough, changes to garv with a V in English. For example, garvahi from garvaka, meaning rough field. Remember we saw aka before in part 1. Glas means green, changing to glass or glass in English. For example, Glas Nevin, which originally was Glas Nean, meaning stream of the infants, a bit of a strange name, but apparently it also has another origin, Glasnea, I think is the right way to say it, meaning stream of Onea, after an ancient chieftain. Glan, meaning valley, changes to glen or glan. For example, Glanmire, from the Irish Glanmire, which is a small town in Cork. Gurm means blue and spelled the same Gurm in English, Gurm in Irish. For example, Glengormley, from the Irish Glan Gormlacha, meaning Gormlath Valley. Gert means field, keeps the same spelling in the English version. For example, Gert na Ho, which comes from Gert na Chuava, meaning tilled field of the cave. Tilled field of the cave, Gert na Chuava. Ilan means island, changes to Ilan or Ilan in English. For example, Ilan Mashter, which is an island, a very small, uninhabited, steep, rocky island off the coast of County Mayo. Ilan Mashter. Inish is another word that means island, and it changes to various spellings of Inish in the anglicised version. For example, Inishman, coming from Inishman in Irish, and this means the middle island. It's part of the Aran Islands. There are 3 of them, and it's the one in the middle. Then Kill means churchyard or graveyard. Keeps the same sound in English, but with a K. For example, Kildare, coming from Kildara, which means church of the oak, Kildara. Quill means woodland or wood, like a wood area, changing to kill again in the anglicised version. For example, Kilcogie, which is Quilcoaga, meaning wood of the war. Ciun or Cian means head, changing to kin or ken in the English version. For example, Kinallen, which comes from the Irish Ciun Allen, We saw the word Allen before. It means beautiful. So Cyn Allen means beautiful headland. Cyn Allen. Knock is a hill. Changes to knock in the English version. For example, knock clock rim, coming from Knock Clock Drumma, which means hill of the stony ridge. Back to the colours. Leah is grey, changing to Leah, L-E-A. In English, Leah or Lay or Lee, depending on the pronunciation. For example, Killy which comes from Quilly Lake, meaning grey forest. Lecher means hillside, changes to letter in the anglicised version. For example, Letterkenny, Lettercanon, meaning hillside of the O'Cannons. Liss means earthen ring fort, changes to Liss. For example, Liscannor from Liscannor, meaning ring fort of the Canner. Loch means lake, changing to loch, different spelling in the English version. For example, Loch Gall, which comes from Loch Gall, meaning cabbage lake. Bit of a strange name there. Lorga or Lurgan, meaning long ridge, changes to Lurgan. And there is a town called Lurgan in English and from Irish on Lurgan, meaning the shin-shaped hill, which is in County Armagh in Northern Ireland. Ma or Makara means plain, changed to ma, me, moi, moi. For example, Maynooth. We skipped one, we'll go back to it in a minute. Maynooth, which comes from Ma Nuad, which means plain of Nuada, who was one of the gods in Celtic mythology. And just going back to the one we skipped, Mom means mountain pass. Mom keeps the same sound, mom or mam in English. For example, well, just Mom is the name of a village and it's on Mom. In Irish, it's a village in County Galway and it just means the pass, on Mom, the pass. Mona or money means peatland or turf, changing to Mona or money in English. For example, Cor na Mona. So if you remember, we saw Cor before. Cor means small round hill. So Cor na Mona would be small round hill of peatland. Moving on to Mullach, which is summit, changing to Mulla in the anglicised version. For example, Mullabon, which comes from on Mullach Bon, meaning the white hilltop. Mullen means mill, changing to mullen, so mullen to mullen. For example, Mullingar, which comes from on Mullingar, meaning the left-handed mill, on Mullingar. Moor means big or great, more in English as well. For example, Tullamore. Tullamore comes from Tulloch War, meaning great mount. Nua means new, changes to no. For example, Ballino comes from on Ballia Nua, the new town, Ballia Nua. Owen is river, changing to Owen. For example, Owen Beg means on Owen Viog, which means the little river, on Owen Viog. Pull means hole, changing to pull or pole. For example, pull a fuka, which means the puka's hole. Port has two meanings. It can mean a stronghold or fort or a landing place. Sounds the same then in English, port. For example, Port Leash. Port Leash and Porta Down. Port Leash is Port Leisha in Irish, and Porta Down, for example, is Port Dunan, meaning landing place of the little fort. Ra is another earthen ring fort. A lot of forts here, ring forts, changing to Rath or Ra. Very common part of many Irish names, town names. And for example, Rathfarnham comes from Rathfarnham, meaning Farnham's ring fort. Riavach means brindled or speckled, changing to Ray or Reva. For example, Clún Shíorva, not sure if I'm pronouncing that exactly correctly because I don't know this town, but it comes from Clún Shíorva, meaning speckled fairy meadow. It must be a magical place. Then we have Rua, which is red and changes to row. For example, Carrarow, which comes from An Cachru Rua. Remember we saw Cachru before, which means quarter. So An Cachru Rua means the red quarter. Ross means wooded promontory, changing to Ross, Rosh, Rus or Rush. And it's an example in Ross Cray, which comes from Ross Cray, meaning the wood of Cray. A historical market town in Tipperary. Sal or Salach means willows. For example, Sal, Sala, Sally. Like in the town Sallins, which comes from the Irish Nasolán, which means the willows. Nasolán, the willows. I think it sounds nicer in Irish. Shan, which means old, is Shan also in English. For example, Shandon, which comes from the Irish An Shan Dún, meaning the old fort. An Shan Dún, the old fort. Shaskin means marsh or quagmire, changing to Sheskin. For example, there is a town called Sheskin, which is divided further into Sheskin Moor and Sheskin Beg. So you can imagine Moor meaning big and Beg coming from Bug, which means small. So big marsh, little marsh. Skiach means hawthorn, changing to ske, or ski in English. For example, Skehinarinki, which comes from Skehin Narinka, meaning the dancing bush. Skehin Narinka, the dancing bush. Getting interesting. Then we have Sra, which is floodplain, changing to Sra or Stra in English. For example, Stran Orler in Donegal comes from Sra an Urlor. Sra an Urlor, which means valley of the floor or flat-bottomed valley. Slieve, which means mountain, changes to sleeve. For example, Slieve Donard. Slieve Donard comes from Slieve Donart, meaning Donart's mountain. Tiarman means refuge or sanctuary, changing to Terman, as in Terman Fechin, meaning Tiarman Fechin, or in other words, Fechin's refuge. Tir means territory, or also country or land, changing to Tir. And we have this in Tyrone, which means Tir Owen in Irish, which means the land of Owen, or the territory of Owen. Tubber means a well, like a water well, changing to tubber or tubber. For example, Tuberclare. Well, we saw Tubercurry yesterday, but Tuberclare, to give a different example, the exact meaning is apparently uncertain. Tubber definitely means well, and the second part, clore, could refer to a board, or it could mean the plain. The tuberclore could mean the well of the plain, because Tuberclare, the area, is a large flat fertile plain, but apparently they don't know for sure the origin. Tra means beach or strand, changing to tra or traw. For example, in Tramore, Tra War, meaning big strand or big beach. Tuam means burial mound, changing to tomb or tomb in English. For example, the town Tuam, you can say Tuam or Tuam, which is a town in Galway. It got quite a large place. Tulloch means hillock or mound or heap, changing to Tully or Tulla in the anglicised version. For example, Tullamore, again, we saw it when we were looking at more. Tullamore comes from Tulloch War, meaning great mound. Urlor means floor or flat land, changing to Orla or Urler in English. For example, giving the same example again, Strahan Orler, meaning that we're coming from Srah on Urlor, meaning valley of the floor or flat-bottomed valley. And then finally, Vehe means birch or of birch, changing to ve or vey in English. For example, Ballyvey. And Bally comes from Ballia, so probably, I can't find the meaning, but I'm sure it means birch town of birch, something like that. Okay, so we have gone over a lot of the parts of names of Irish towns. I hope you enjoyed it. Irish towns have had other influences from, for example, when we were being attacked by the Vikings, and also influences from English words as well. But I think the original Irish language had the most influence on the names of the towns. Maybe another day we'll look at the other influences as well. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon.